What's up, Psychedelic investors? My name's James, and you're watching The Psychedelic Investor, your #1 news source for psychedelic stocks. Today, it's my pleasure to bring to you This Week in Psychedelic Stocks for the trading week ended on May 14th. And this is a very short episode. There wasn't too much news this week, so we're just going to hop right into it. First off, our first story of the day is the FDA has cleared researchers to test MDMA on themselves to gain a better understanding of the drug. So after the phase 3 MAPS trial testing treating PTSD with MDMA, where 67% of people were cured of PTSD and another 21% of them saw major improvements, the medical establishment is really waking up to the very real potential that this compound, that MDMA, has as a treatment. So the FDA has allowed the same institution, MAPS, to start a phase 1 clinical trial where the therapists who actually conducted the PTSD research will undergo the MDMA therapy themselves. They're going to do this personally. This is going to give the therapists personal experience of what their patients undergo, and it's going to make them better prepared to run MDMA-assisted psychotherapy in the future, since they have an intimate understanding of what their patients are going to be feeling because they've experienced it themselves. So this is fantastic news because for the therapy to be effective, you want your therapist to kind of understand what's happening. You want them to have this intimate understanding. And this study joins a very similar one that's taking place in Canada right now, where the therapists are undergoing psilocybin therapy themselves so that they can understand what is happening in the patient's brain when they're on these substances and doing the therapy. So this is very interesting. I really like how the therapists are doing this to themselves to get a better understanding of what's happening, and we're going to follow this story closely as it unfolds. Next up, we're going to move on to MindMed, who announced their Q1 financials. So getting right to the most important numbers right off the bat, the cash on hand that MindMed has is $160 million American. So they have lots of money in the bank. For the quarter, they spent $14 million, and doing some rough back-of-the-napkin math, a little bit of division here, this means they have enough for 11.4 quarters or 2.9 years if they don't increase their spending. However, they've now got like a cajillion different clinical trials, so of course they're going to increase their spending going forward, and I would expect them to actually increase it quite significantly going forward, so they don't really have enough for that 2.9 years. They probably have enough for, I don't know, a year and a half. We'll have to see. There'll probably be more capital raises in the future, but I don't have a crystal ball, so I'm not sure. So when they released their financial results, they also kind of did a recap of what their quarter was like, and boy, did they have a really solid quarter this year. First off, they acquired a company called Health Mode, which is an AI company, a deep learning company, and all of its engineers that were once part of Health Mode are now working in MindMed's digital division, their digital medicines division, which is called Albert. On top of this, they began a phase 1 trial combining LSD and MDMA. They expanded their microdosing division to add more trials. They began an LSD neutralizer phase 1 clinical trial. And then on top of all of this, they added a lot of top talent, such as Robert Barrow, who is now the Chief Development Officer. And then, they also did this little thing called getting added to the NASDAQ. So a very, very, very big quarter for MindMed indeed. They also announced the date for their conference call to go over all the events that happen in this quarter. It's going to be held on May 17th at 9 a.m. So that is on Monday, which I think will be tomorrow by the time you guys see this episode. So hopefully we're going to get some news during this conference call, specifically on phase 2A of Project Lucy, which is of course treating anxiety with LSD-assisted psychotherapy. This project, or this phase 2A portion of the project rather, wrapped up on May 1st. So hopefully we'll be getting some indications of how well that trial went, and also when we can expect some full data on it. Like we've said in the past, they're planning to move to phase 2B by the end of this year. They've already filed the IND, investigational new drug, with the FDA, I believe. Moving on, next up we're going to touch on Compass Pathways, who also announced their Q1 finances. For them, their cash on hand was $179.5 million, so a little bit more than MindMed, and they spent about $12.7 million for the quarter, which is a little bit less than MindMed spent. So doing the same basic division here, we can see they have enough money for 14 quarters or 3.5 years if they don't increase spending, which of course they will. Like MindMed, Compass also had a fantastic quarter. So first off, and most importantly, y'all will remember earlier in the year, there was a study that was released by the Imperial College of London, which looked at the efficacy of treating major depressive disorder with psilocybin as compared to SSRIs. And this showed that psilocybin had lots of great benefits and worked really well, but something that I didn't know until recently was that they weren't just using some run-of-the-mill psilocybin in this study. They were actually using COMP360 or Compass Pathways psilocybin. So like I said, I didn't know that at all, and obviously this is a major win for Compass Pathways because this trial not only shows the effectiveness of psilocybin, but it also showed the effectiveness of Compass's psilocybin. So that's just really great news for the company. On top of that, they expanded their patent protection around COMP360. They added new delivery methods for it. They added the number of countries it was covered in, and they also expanded its use from just treatment-resistant depression to major depressive disorder. So the number one thing that we should be looking forward to going forward for Compass Pathways is their phase 2b trial treating treatment-resistant depression with COMP360, which is set to end very soon, and hopefully we'll be getting data reported on that by the end of the year. So just quickly comparing the financials of MindMed and Compass Pathways, we can see that they're in a very similar financial position. They have similar amounts of money in the bank. However, something I will state is just that MindMed has so many more clinical trials up and running, though of course Compass also has their centers of excellence and discovery centers that they're spending money on. But still, I would have to think that perhaps MindMed is spread a little bit more thin than Compass Pathways is, just because they're spending, or they have so many more clinical trials that they have to spend money on, but that's just kind of a random speculation on my part. Moving on, next up we're going to quickly touch on Numinus, who has announced that they're going to be supplying psilocybin, or their psilocybin extract, to a company called Optimi Health for the upcoming preclinical trials. So Numinus has its lab in British Columbia, as I'm sure all of you guys know, where it extracts psilocybin from natural mushrooms. And this contrasts it with companies like Compass Pathways, who are making synthetic versions of the substance. So one of NUMI's goals is to sell this substance, this natural psilocybin, to researchers and earn revenue now, as opposed to waiting 5 to 10 years for when these treatments are approved and they can run clinics, etc. So yeah, Optimi plans on eventually running human clinical trials. I say eventually, but I mean very soon they plan on doing this once they get through preclinical studies. And once this happens for both the preclinical and the human trials, Numinus is going to be supplying the psilocybin. So great news for Numinus. In these trials, Optimi is, and I hope I'm saying that right by the way, I think I am, Optimi is going to retain all of the IP that is produced in this trial. Numinus is just supplying the psilocybin. And that's okay, that's all that Numinus is trying to do here. They're trying to be a supplier, so this is great news. We can kind of see Numinus is starting to raise its wings or extend its wings a little bit, getting more deals, getting more partnerships. So great news for Numinus. Next up, very briefly, we have a little bit of news, for Light Holland, who has launched a new app to help microdosers. The app is called iMicro app, and it's going to include a virtual telecounseling, and it will use biometric detection data to help people find their personal optimal dose of psilocybin to microdose on. On top of that, it is going to help people stick to their regimen, which can often be a little bit difficult when you're not taking the pill every single day, you're taking it every few days, and it may vary from person to person. Like I said, it's going to help people find their optimal dose for each individual. On top of this, it has a built-in journaling function, so anybody that's done a little bit of research into microdosing before knows that one of the most suggested things to do is keep a personal diary to talk about how you are feeling day in, day out once you start microdosing, and even a little bit before you start microdosing to when you start microdosing, so you can track your progress over time to see what the real effect of the microdosing is. So this is just very cool. I don't really know how popular it's going to be. Hopefully the app will be very popular, lots of people will take it, and it will be a smashing hit for Light Holland. I don't really know, but hopefully that will be the case. It's a cool product that they're making nevertheless. Finally, our last story of the day is there is a new psychedelic medicines that has entered the scene. So this company called Wesana Health Holdings, Inc. has recently begun trading on the CSE. Specifically, it started trading on May 10th, and the ticker symbol is WESA, or WESA. This company, it's the niche that it's kind of trying to enter, is very cool. They're focusing on treating traumatic brain injury with psychedelics. So like I said, a very cool niche to get into. The founder of this company is a guy named Daniel Carcillo, and he's actually a former NHL player. So for any NHL hockey fans out there, very cool little thing happening here. Now, at the moment, this is a very, very small company, and honestly, I probably wouldn't have mentioned the company at all if it weren't for a few of the cool partnerships that it has. First, it is partnered with the World Boxing Council, and these two entities have announced a multi-year clinical research project to examine the therapeutic potential of psychedelics, starting with psilocybin, to reduce the effects and symptoms of traumatic brain injury suffered by its boxers. So if you know anything about boxing, you'll know that lots of people have traumatic brain injury, you know, from getting punched in the head for a living. So anything that can help with easing these people's suffering is obviously a huge plus. I don't really know the science into whether or not psychedelics like psilocybin can help with traumatic brain injury, but you know, I'm hopeful, and if it does, then this will be really kind of game-changing for the entire sports industry. And talking about boxing, the second partnership that I want to talk about right now is with one of its early investors and kind of spokespeople right now, and that is Mike Tyson has partnered with this company. So that is very cool. Love Mike Tyson or hate Mike Tyson. He's one of the world's most famous boxers, and it's just very exciting that he's decided to partner with this company, so we're definitely going to have to keep a close eye on Wesana going forward. Like I said, very small company. It's probably way too early in the process for me personally to invest in, but we will keep an eye on them going forward. And yeah, I just thought I would share this kind of cool news with you guys. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments if you think that psychedelics like psilocybin can be used to help treat traumatic brain injury. The idea kind of seems a little bit way out to me, kind of seems like a little bit, yeah, I don't know what the right word is, maybe borderline. I have no idea if this is going to work or not, but like fingers crossed, if it does, like I said, this would be fantastic news. That's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Like I said, let me know down in the comments if you think that psilocybin can be used to treat traumatic brain injury. I want to hear your opinions on this. And if you enjoyed the episode, like and subscribe. It really helps grow the channel and will ensure that you keep seeing this information. Also, remember, guys, I am not a financial advisor. Everything in this video is just my own personal opinion. Please do your own research into any stocks before you think about buying them. That's all for today. I love you all. I'll see you soon. This is James from the Psychedelic Investor, signing out.